Hello, 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 everyone. It's Christina George back with Paranormal Connections radio show, back with another great show for everybody. Um, Sorry, I was started a little bit late and trying to see where Chad was, but so Chad, if you're listening, where are you? We have a show to do. Anyway, it's okay. I've been doing the show by myself for a long time. I can handle it if I need to. All right, so got a great show for everybody tonight. Make sure to go into the comments, ask questions. My guest tonight is a wealth of knowledge. Now, I would tell you, I met my guest years and years ago. I actually had him on the show. I used to talk to him about the paranormal when he first got into it, uh, really more publicly. I had a radio show with him, and he moved on. He's also a musician. He's moved on to having his own shows on TV or being part of shows on TV. He's just got all kinds of stuff going on right now. So, if you don't know, tonight's guest is Sean Austin, and Sean is a demonologist, a paranormal investigator, a psychic medium, an author who has been involved in paranormal research for over 13 years. He's appearing on different series featured on Netflix, Travel Channel, Discovery Plus, and Scare Network TV. Sean's calling has always been to try to help the living deal with the diversified hauntings that can come about or the earthbound trapped souls reaching out for assistance. So tonight we're going to be talking about all kinds of things, things that he's done in the past, things that he's doing and now that are coming up. But yeah, a lot going on, a lot going on. And welcome everybody in the chat room. I will get to you just 1 second. Hey, Sean, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good. It seems like it's been so long because it's like I've had you on this show before. Then we had our own show that
Yeah.
we were doing for a long time, and now you've blossomed out. You doing TV. I watch you faithfully. I see that you just got stuff going on all the time. I'm always seeing you go somewhere new and different and streaming, and I'm seeing you're on TikTok now, so I'm seeing a lot of your live stuff there. So congratulations.
Oh, well, I was humbled by whatever opportunities I've gotten in the paranormal over the years. And I think even when I first spoke to you online and you brought me on your podcast the first time, like I just was out there for the sake of like, wow, this stuff is real. And
Yeah,
I was just going out there with a spirit box and a recorder. And I'm like, I just wanted to attain more experience and knowledge with that experience in the process. And obviously, live stream comes later, and it kind of it brings an
right.
audience to the investigations that we do, and brings also validity to the spirituality element as a whole, and how I approach the paranormal and how everybody approaches the paranormal. But yeah,
Right.
it's been a wild ride. I never thought that this would be something um, the way it turned out, and here I am going on 14 years of in the paranormal, dealing with the paranormal. So pretty surreal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, how much you've changed over the years too. And that comes with being a novice in the field because all of us, when we get into the field, even if you have psychic abilities or anything, like I said, I was investigating way before I knew that that was called paranormal investigating. And I was like using my abilities to give people answers and cross people, spirits over different things like that. I just never knew that there was a name for what we did. So we all start out in this field, and it's kind of like at the beginning, you were just kind of learning by trial and error. And because there weren't a whole lot of groups, and then you started, and then, then more people started coming out. And, back in the day, even 15 years ago, like people like helped each other out, and they did want to collab. And I see over the years it's changed a lot. There's a lot of jealousy and competition now because everybody's striving to kind of do their own thing. For you, for people who are say wanting to get to be an investigator, want to get to a level where they have a TV show, what do you think the chances are? And if they wanted to, what advice would you give them?
Well, number one, I just wanted to mention that I just want to say actually thank you, Christina, because you saw something in me when I first started in the paranormal, and you had told me that I have a calling, which is something that was resonating during the time. There were multiple people telling me I had some sort of calling and dealing with dark energies, and that really has and was and is the theme of my involvement of going up against evil and helping people and souls in general. And I just want to say thank you for that.
Of course.
Obviously, it's just crazy how things can kind of streamline into a new territory, and kind of just looking back at everything throughout all the years is just really wild. I
I
feel
think I think, Sean, what it was is I was worried for you. I wanted to take you under my wing because you were just out there investigating and provoking and doing all kinds of crazy, stuff that was probably not the best
like,
stuff to do without having any knowledge of what the heck you were doing.
oh yeah.
And, I remember it was like, I can't even believe it's been this long, but it's like, I can remember, at the beginning, and it was like that was the thrill. And I'm like, no, like, you can still get that thrill and you can still do this stuff, but you got to do it safely. So
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean,
there,
I was, you know, I was just going buck wild. I mean, once you know it's real, and
yes,
all of us in that
yes,
moment, that trigger moment when you realize it's real. I mean, every little sound, oh, what was that? Or you want to videotape everything, and just I always take it.
well,
It's like the moment in the Matrix movie. You want the blue pill or the red pill, and it's like once you take that and you have this whole new view of what really goes on, beneath the curtain of the physical plane, you're just like, oh wow, it's there, it's always there, and you just have to deal with that opening to that perspective in your daily life.
right. And for you, that's why I said it was a calling because there's not many people with psychic abilities that are very, very drawn, and dark spirits are very drawn to them. And I can remember, like, every time you were out investigating, like something was following you home. And then we'd be having these like late night discussions back at your dad's house, about what was going on there. And it was so, and it's crazy enough now is that, you have your apartment and you have all kinds of activity there. Go figure.
Mhm. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it was like it was literally like a flip of the switch. It was like I went to the cemetery to try to prove to a friend that ghosts
Yes,
were real, and it was just like it was a tsunami from there. It was
yes,
immediate. Like I got my first EVP, then there was a shadow of a little girl at the corner of my bed. I just posted a video about that because I found some old EVPs. I'm like, wow, I think some people might be interested with some of the crazy stuff that's happened in the beginning, and
yeah,
it was just nuts. It was just nuts. It was just boom. It was like I had a spiritual awakening like overnight. It was like an overnight experience. That's how fast it was. And I felt like I skipped so many grades of experiences that most people don't. And I think obviously those sensitive, intuitive, discernment and psychic abilities were there dormantly. And I think that is a lot of the case with many of us, of course. But for me, it was just like as soon as I engaged that world, opened myself up, it was immediate. And it was just like it was just pouring in, and I just didn't even know what was going on, which also led me to be susceptible to some of the nasty stuff in the beginning because I just
right,
didn't know what was going on.
right, right. No, I mean, again, I can remember, many a conversations after many of investigations or trying to help somebody out, and you coming back with a lot of crazy stuff yourself. And as soon as you would go and like be working with somebody, then everything would act up at your house. So yeah, I can remember. So it's funny, like when I started seeing like on TikTok about your apartment. And I'm like, wow, like he's gonna have a never end. It's like, here where I work and I live, same thing. It's like a never ending, amount of activity. Like you could just stream about that and that only, and you'd have lots of content. But it's something definitely that has been with you for a long time because things are very, drawn to you. And as long as it's not something dark coming after you or hurting you, I think you're okay. Otherwise, you're gonna have to call him back in.
I just make a joke to him. I just have my water gun filled with holy water. I'm like, skedaddle, get out of here. I mean, that's really how it is because I'm just like, okay, I don't mind because the way I approach the paranormal and I pray for spirits like every place I go, and that's something that you don't see a lot of people do. And because I have such that next level effort to really try to want to help these souls and not just say it. I think that's another reason why a lot of these human spirits follow me home, because they see that I might have helped another soul, and then they come home with me and they're like, "Hey, I want help too." And I've seen it happen so many times. And I don't mind those types of human spirits because then I want to
Right.
be able to try to help them. But then sometimes you do have some of that dark element that comes with them, and then you just gotta, brush that out and
Mhm.
displace it and get it out of here, because you know what comes next with all the nastiness of infestations or oppressions, or
Yes.
depression and
Yeah.
all that stuff that I've gone through throughout the years too. So
Again, like I said, back in the day, we really learned by trial and error. So at this point, obviously nobody in this field is an expert, but we have a lot of like real life experience dealing with what to do and what not to do. And so we want to try to like help others so they don't make those same mistakes. And because I used to tell people, it's like, okay, if you're getting your training off of television, and that was back in the day, then oh yeah, eventually you're going to be one of my clients. You're going to be calling me because something's going to follow you home and you're not going to be able to get rid of it. I don't care how. Look, I've even myself, and I know what the hell I'm doing. I've even had to have people come and clear things out for me as well, because once it's attached to you, it's like you need somebody else to come in and do it. It's very hard if you're trying to do it yourself. So I was like, wow, it definitely kept me in lots of clients because there was tons of paranormal investigators out here, and it was just they were out there again, provoking, doing all kinds of crazy stuff, rituals, everything that they had really no idea. Like a lot of these people, I'm like, okay, so how do you know how to do a ritual? And they're like, oh yeah, we watched somebody on YouTube.
oh yeah.
Wow,
Yeah, I mean, this stuff is very endlessly fascinating, and it's like kind of like bringing a movie experience into real life, and especially just the thought of it. And it's understandable that it's kind of like a big huge thrill, but we're talking about real world here, so there's comes with real consequences with
and
entering
real dangers.
domain of the spiritual realm and engaging these spirits. And that's why, I mean, for me, like when I first started, you know, the first thing I did was start reading books, because I'm like, now I'm just like obsessed with it. So I want to learn. Like, and first book I read was The Demonologist, Edna Ray Warren, and then, you know,
Right,
all these other books and Ralph's book. And like, I just was trying to absorb everything and learning about the worst case scenarios and cases when people deal with stuff. And obviously, I've had a couple of hiccups too. Not being prepared of how these things can attack you, and the delicate nature of the paranormal, because it really is the psychological attacks that are probably the most dangerous, that people need to be aware of, because they can hide
right,
shadows until you don't even have any clue it has anything to do with the paranormal. It could be days, years, from your actual night that you invited in. So, yeah, it's a, it's why it's, any advice that I would give, like you take it back to what you said before, is just, read up on things that are from the pioneers that are in the paranormal field back in the day, when there was no really TV shows, that people were out there. And,
right,
in the old days, people would have to look up in the yellow pages to find a parapsychologist, is what they were really calling it back in those days, to find someone
right,
that might be able to do some sort of scientific research into the unexplained phenomenon that's happening in their home or whatever it may be. And a lot of those churches, and still there's a lot of churches these days that they're not really, you know, versed in the paranormal element. They don't really know how to
right,
do it. But especially back in the old days, because people would probably want to chase you out of a neighborhood with pitchforks and torches if you said that your house is haunted. And then, it was a very hushed thing. It was very,
yeah,
now it's like everyone wants their house to be haunted. So
yeah.
it's for a
Definitely
whole,
change for
yeah,
sure.
because they see that there's, money to be made, attention to have, and you deal with that. And that makes it trickier too to, sometimes to figure out who really wants help or who doesn't. I mean, I've had multiple people on TikTok and people tag me in people's videos. It is hilarious. I'm just like, I look at these people, they're constantly putting videos up. Oh, it's crazy here and this and that. And then like, oh yeah. And like they'll message me and they'll be like, oh, like I'd really love for you to help out. I'm like, all right, here's my contact information. You never hear from them, but they keep posting videos because their views just keep going up. So,
Right.
and it's
So
hilarious.
there's a lot of fake ones out there, and like I've even been tagged in a lot of things, and 100% are not. I can look at them and see that they're not anything paranormal,
They don't,
but they're getting
not even just fake.
tons of views.
You have them people that may have some sort of real element, but they get a taste of, oh, now I'm getting millions of views every time I post a video.
Yes,
Now they're making
exactly.
bucks and they just don't care. And obviously it's not that serious of a situation if they can
Yeah.
continue just doing. And I've seen some that are probably may have been legit, and then someone who's ridiculously fake. Um, and it sucks too because I see like the videos that get the most views are the ones that are the most ridiculously fabricated paranormal
Right.
I've ever seen.
I feel like it's very frustrating too because I feel like so many people, especially that have, I mean, I almost 20 years, you have 15 years in the field publicly. It's like we had to go through a lot to be legitimate and to be looked at, as, somebody's not out there faking and we're, all of that. Now you see all of these TikToks and all of these YouTube channels, and everything is about demons, and everything is about they almost got killed by the spirits and things like that. All such so glorified. I mean, how much of that out there do you really think is legit, and how much do you think it is just for the monetary gain and views?
Unfortunately, it's a big chunk of it. There was a big, huge amount of these people that really were urbex explorers on YouTube, but then they found a real niche in the paranormal element, and immediately, all of a sudden, the urbex people became paranormal investigators, and then they would go out and just start investigating. They are just faking to the cows freaking come home, and they're getting millions of views, and they're making tens of thousands of dollars. I mean, they never really were passionate about the paranormal before, but they're passionate about making money, so of course they're going to continuously do that. And it does suck to have to watch that happen because like so many of us care about this stuff. We know it's real, but it's a real long, patient waiting game to have legitimate crazy things happen. We know that it can happen, but not the way that they portray. It's just like every time they go out,
Right?
furniture
Wouldn't it be nice?
air and shit and things like that. It's like, yeah, okay. But unfortunately, there's a huge audience that just sits there and believes them, but also paints a brush for the people that we get all like the real critical critiques from the people in the field that want to sit there and accuse us all of being fake. But that's why I say these days to people when it comes to the paranormal, like, hey, you can watch my videos, all you want, but like if you really want to believe in the paranormal, you're gonna have to have a firsthand experience, and then
That's right.
whether or not if it's a rational thing that just took place or something that you don't have an answer for. And that's why we call it the unexplained. And so you'll be sitting there and scratching your head. And those types of moments, those types of events are the things that drag people like ourselves that become interested in this stuff and want to know more because we know that there is something to it. And we
Right.
look for more answers in that process and go out and investigate more. And, we're always going to be in that search. But, throughout the years, I mean, we're just stacking on plenty of unexplained phenomenon firsthand, and who we encounter. And it's even great, when I was on the podcast with you, and just when I was doing it myself, like just having all these people synergistically and picking each other's brains. And I loved hearing, in the old days, all I would do is watch these stories before I was even a paranormal investigator and just listen to these amazing experiences these people were going through in their homes and personally as what they consider paranormal experiences. I mean, there's really legitimate crazy stuff that does happen out there. But, again, since Hollywood is melded with the paranormal field and they see opportunity to be a star, you have that unfortunate thing that's kind of like a taint to the goodness of the paranormal. And even on some of the TV shows I've been on, I've been through some nightmares. So,
Oh,
you know,
I
uh,
can imagine.
uh,
I
you
always
know,
tell people be careful what you wish for because everybody
yeah,
wants to have you know the shows and the fame and all of that. And I'm like, you know what? When you're just a regular normal person in the field, the criticizing, the backstabbing, the jealousy is real.
mhm,
Just imagine now escalating where you have a huge TikTok channel, huge YouTube channel, a huge audience, any of that, you have a huge target on your back because now the jealousy is super real because everybody is wishing that they were where you're at, and this feel like I don't know, it's like a cult mentality. It's just like whatever like the mass believe, like everybody just jumps on the bandwagon. It's like a witch hunt and it's like, I mean, now we've got, what is that called? The cancel culture. They don't
Oh,
like what you say, they're going to cancel you out. And I mean, it's just like, wow, really? I mean, why doesn't everybody just do what they have to do? Find some like-minded people. Stop worrying about, being the most famous, being having making the most money, being the most present. Just go out and do what you should be doing. You know what your calling is, because again, this field is just like, I feel like it's just destroying itself from in the middle. The
it,
drama's unreal every day. I
it
see it.
is. And we're all preaching to the choir here because we've all been through it.
Right.
Like I said, TV shows I've been on, I've seen people that were I considered friends that literally turned on me, and they saw stars in their eyes, and it's just like they just change into something. It's shocking to see the behavior of what people can actually do when they get a little taste of attention, and you see the true beast or characteristic of their true nature come out. It's exposed out into the
Yes.
environment, and it's shocking. It's really shocking. It's sad. I've gone through it. Obviously you've gone through things like that, and it is what it is, but it's still my passion, and that's why I go out and do what I do. Whether I land an opportunity that I'm humbled to be a part of and involve my passion, I just go out there and I try to make a difference, because in the end, I want to be able to do this to the point where I leave an impact behind. So I know I
That's
made a
right.
difference. And, I'm not going to let any of the words of any other people, sway me, away from that, or distract me. I mean, that's what they're trying to do. Like you said, I mean, they see you running past and you're busy and you're doing stuff, and they want to haunt you. They'll start rumors about you. They'll lie
That's
about you,
right.
and they'll try to trip you as you're racing to the finish line, because they want to catch up and destroy you and go past you, because they can't stand the fact that you could actually be more successful at something that they want to be successful at. It's unfortunate,
But
but
as if that's a bad thing, though. I mean, again, there are certain people that, I mean, it's just like in jobs. You got certain people that, start at the bottom and they always stay at the bottom. You have other ones that start at the bottom, and then next thing you know, they're like the CEOs. So, it's especially being a content creator online, being on social media, being on television, it is a lot. I don't think people really like understand what it is. So, but again, like you were saying, I think that people who've been there for a long time,
mhm.
it's like only the strongest survive. Because I've seen over the years, I've seen ton of people leave the field just because
Yeah,
the jealousness, the backstabbing, the drama, it's just too much for them, especially if they're the target. Um, but the ones that do, so is kind of survive this field and continue, and it's like you said, we just basically, I got rid of everybody. I literally was just kind of doing me. I have a couple people that, in my group that will go with me if I do things, but I really just kind of just started going out investigating myself, doing the show by myself, just doing what I had to do. And I think once you get to that point, you just kind of, it changes you. Like you say, it flips a switch for you. It's just kind of like, I hate to say it hardens you to the field, but it's just kind of like, you know what? I'm not doing it for the field. I'm doing this for a reason,
yeah.
and stay focused on that. You'll be fine. Because people say, oh, how in the world are you still in this field? Hey, out there, if you still Google me, I'm still, on the FBI's most wanted list. And, there's a reward, although we still don't know how much it is. I mean, so the stuff is out. People will say whatever they're going to
Yeah.
say. People get jealous, so we just keep going forward and let it go.
And I
It
think
would,
I've avoided a lot of that too, is because I never made like an official team. And there's people that ask me like, oh, and it's like trying to have a band, and that's really where the egos and the competition and like
yes,
who you consider to be friends. As soon as it becomes a competition with someone you claim to be a friend, that friendship is over. It's done.
yes, yes,
They're not looking at you as your colleague. They are looking at you as, I need to get in front of that person. I need to step
yeah,
over that person. And I've dealt with situation where people want to mooch off, even like the work that I've done. And I don't even consider myself like, oh, this big thing. Like, I've been lucky to be a part of like 3 TV series, multiple documentaries, and published 2 books. Like, I'm proud of what I've done. I still feel like I want
absolutely.
more, but I don't sit here and think like, oh, I'm some like TV star or whatever. I mean, I'm it is what it is. But I mean, like, oh God, I've dealt with experience that, oh, people want to, investigate with me, and then you find out they're trying to use you and stuff like that. It's just like, oh God, that's why I keep to myself. I don't even have a
Yes,
team. I like you said, I've been doing this for years. I go out now by myself. If I have a case that I can handle on my own, I go out. Otherwise, I'll bring someone randomly that I trust to
Right.
help me with the situation. If I need another pair of hands, if it's a serious type of residential home or something like that, or whatever it may be. So I think that avoids a lot of the drama too, because again, you're in a group, you're in a paranormal group, and then one person out of five randomly gets on a show, and then all the other two members are like, why am I gonna get on a TV show? And
Right.
everyone's fighting, and then you can't use my evidence even though you got it, and this and that, and blah blah blah. It's like all this nonsense goes on because it's just everyone likes attention. Of course, it would be nice to be on TV at any thing, and of course, but I mean, when it comes to stepping over people and stepping on people and backstabbing them and making up lies and rumors, I mean, that's the stuff that really shocks me. It's just like,
Yes.
I understand that people can become envious and about things, everyone that does, more so than them, and that's out there in the spotlight. But we shouldn't be envious. But if you are envious, the only one thing that you should be doing is just working harder and smarter.
That's right.
Worry about yourself. Stop worrying about other people. Figure out how you can get yourself to the next level and get out there and busy yourself. I've done it so much in the last, I mean, during the pandemic, I mean, I was all over the place. Everyone was hiding in their homes, and I got in the car and we went across the entire country. I felt like I had the whole country to ourselves as we went out
Right.
there and investigated all these locations. There was nobody on the highway. I mean, it was amazing. I was just like, we were out there and experiencing the world. Like, I'm not going to sit home and sulk in this nightmare that we're dealing with. What can I do? What can I do to better
Right.
myself? I got my second book done. Like, whatever I need to do to better myself, I was going to do it. And I took advantage of that, especially involving my passion. We were all over the place nonstop. And I still, obviously, to this day, wherever I can go, there's a new place I can go check out. Go out there, get the experience, do the research, do the investigation, try to get some interesting evidence, and just keep it going, keep the machine going. And I like I said, I still believe I have a lot more to do, and I'm on a mission to do so.
Right. What do you think as far as like the uptick in people reporting the darker activity? I can think back. I mean, I've had a lot of residential cases over the years, a lot. And it's usually human spirits that either haven't crossed over, wandered, followed somebody home, all kinds of different things, but nothing. Some could be dark as far as like they were just a really shitty person when they were alive and they didn't cross over. They were still kind of a shitty person in the middle ground. But I've seen over, especially like over the last 5 years, I'm seeing a lot more people coming saying that they've got like really dark stuff going on in their homes opposed to just regular residential hauntings. Are you seeing that as well? Because I know you do a lot of cases that are darker in nature. Are you seeing an increase of them? And on the ones that are on, if they are on increase, are you find anything really dark, or what do you think's going on?
Well, again, like you had mentioned before about, people watching videos on YouTube and TikTok. I mean, these viral videos. I mean, TikTok's huge. I mean, it's probably the biggest still
Right.
social media platform. There's just so many billions and billions of people, and like people are running into these like videos of like methods of messing around with magic and all sorts of rituals and stuff like that. And it's that's the thing that exposes a lot of people to potentially becoming ignorant and making a decision by inviting something dark into their lives. Now, I mean, it just depends. I mean, I've been like on a couple of dark cases here and there, but then of course we're going to run into a home where you might have the word Satan come through, but you as yourself and me as myself, is that the combination of the characteristics of what you're experiencing during the investigation, the evidence you get, and what you feel yourself correlating to what's going on. And obviously, there's certain characteristics that I'd be looking for to define whether or not it's an infestation of an inhuman spirit, demonic, or a human spirit. In a lot of these cases, there are human spirits, but these people are just freaked out. I mean, if something gets thrown off a counter or stuff like that. But I haven't seen like a crazy uptick in dark cases, but I've still been on some dark cases here and there. It just depended, but again, there's like, it seems like people ask for for help, and then they want the attention more than they want,
Right.
they want help. And it's almost like, hey, it's okay to live with an evil spirit in your house. It's like, you're just asking for trouble. It will catch up to you at some point. You live in that environment with an oppressive, lower vibrational type of spiritual energy. You will be lowered down to their standards of what their energy exudes, and that's going to be negativity, whatever it is, depression, sadness, anger, rage, and will cause issues with you and people that you care around you. They're negative energy, and they need negative energy, so they want you to come down to their level. So they're going to want to put you in that state psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, and so forth. So, you know, um, it just depends. I mean, I haven't seen like a crazy uptick, but I've seen a lot of people claiming to want help, and I've seen a lot more of that today than we have 10 years ago.
Yeah.
That's for damn sure.
And that's kind of how I feel as well, because a lot of times, like I said, I'm looking at these videos and I'm not. I mean, I visually pick things up, but I can watch videos. I can pick things up, and I'm not getting anything. I don't, And again, it's always everything that you are seeing on YouTube now and on TikTok. It's all so focused on everything dark, which gets them all these views. So again, I kind of felt like, okay, yeah, a lot of people are like, yeah, there's this huge uptick in dark energy and entities that are coming through, and that's not been my experience.
Yeah.
When I'm asking other people that I know in the field, whether it be in a team or solo investigators, they're not really seeing it. They are saying that a lot of times is an uptick of people reporting
Yeah.
negative stuff, but like you said,
They want the
either
attention.
there's explanations or they're just outright just looking for some attention,
Yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
so it
Yeah,
makes
once
it
they
it
hit the
makes it
dollar
difficult.
signs, especially if they're getting views on TikTok or YouTube, it's over. I mean, it's very easy to take that bite out of the apple with, with that scenario. So,
I
uh,
had
it is.
somebody contact I had somebody contact me the other day, and they said that they had something really dark in their home and everything. But before, and I said, okay, well, I'll get some people together, I'll come by, and we'll see what I'll do a walkthrough, see what I pick up on, and if I pick up on anything, we can come back and do an investigation. And they told me they needed to know, I needed to email them my social media platform profiles so that they could see how many followers I have.
Shocking.
Right?
Now,
I'm
mind you,
like,
I just got it. Like, it was back in the beginning of the summer. Somebody reached out to me, wanted to go check out their property, and they planned to potentially live in it in about a year or so. And it's actually a castle in upstate New York. And
okay,
I went up there. I was like, all right, so um, let me go up there. We'll do an investigation. I mean, it's abandoned, so it's like an old 1800s castle for a Scotsman that wanted like a Scotsman type castle. He was going to be working locally up in upstate Auburn, New York, and I took my buddy with me. And like right before we walk in, she like let me know. And by the way, when we put security, on the house, we walked in there and found like a box with like occult symbols on it and like piles of ashes around it. I'm like, oh wow, this is about to turn into something potentially not that great. And it was just crazy. Something nasty was in the castle. And actually, we ended up doing a whole documentary about it. It's going to come out next month. But so what ended up happening is that I walk into the castle. Now my buddy's just filming. We're not even live. And I get this vision of this woman in a white dress spinning around, and then her face turns into like this nasty serpent-like face and growls at me. And I tell my buddies, like, yo, that's pretty intense. It's weird, creepy. And then we go upstairs into the attic, and we're looking around, and right to the left of us, like right out of a horror movie, it was just this loud guttural growl, like right there. It sounded like someone played it like on an audio tape. It was that ridiculous. And luckily my friend caught it on audio and this and that. And then it was just a streamline of events. How this thing, it was just one of those nasties that followed us to the hotel. It followed my friend to the hotel, and he thought he was dying in his hotel room. I mean, he thought he saw this thing at the corner of his hotel bed, and it followed me too, because I didn't know that we were going to go back and film there so soon. And just by change of plans, we ended up planning to go up there. And this thing knew that because this lady wanted this stuff out of the castle because they planned to live there. So I'm like, okay, I mean, we're gonna have to confirm that this thing's a demonic spirit, because if it's true, which I'm leaning towards that, obviously, that we're
Right.
gonna have to do the exorcism ritual on this place with the best chance of it displacing it outwards. And like days before I went to the castle, like I'm laying in bed and I looked to the left of me and I could see a side profile of a woman looking up at the ceiling with a pale face and black eyes with like a twisted, face, like something right out of a horror movie. And I'm like, what the hell? And I was awake. That's never happened to me before, ever. Like we're actually being awake, because usually we have these visions, like when we're kind of like in a lucid. And then I looked at the corner bed and there's those red glowing eyes. And I'm like, yo, that's definitely that thing. Because I knew that lady in the dress, that's its facade. That's its, what it's trying to it was pissed off because it knew we were coming back there doing an exorcism on the place. And it's just so much happened. Like we're down in the basement and I just said, in the name of Jesus Christ, I command you, make a sign of your presence. And like literally in a row, I saw a pig's face in my mind's eye. My buddy behind me smelled urine out of nowhere. And then all of us behind us heard this loud, like snake like hiss, all in a row. We were just like, what in the heck? And whatever, I ended up doing the exorcism ritual on the place the next day. And then we went to Shanley Hotel and we filmed a documentary there. It followed us there. This thing was nasty. It's one of those that follows you for a while. And it was crazy. Like my friend who's a cop, we were up in the third floor of the Shanley Hotel, and the night before he got scratched, and they took a picture of him while he's getting scratched that night, and his face formed into like a pig. His nose turned into his pig. And it's interesting because when he went home to Jersey, he wasn't there for the exorcism ritual. He said his phone flew off the counter and all the cabinets started opening up in the kitchen. So like this thing was
Oh, wow.
coming at all of us at the same time. So then all of a sudden, fast forward the next night, I'm in the room with my buddy who got scratched in the pig nose on the picture, which will be on the documentary. And then all of a sudden, this loud growl in the room with us. And I'm like, what the heck? We got it on audio. Literally right after that, all these dogs outside next to the hotel start barking and going nuts. I'm just like, what is happening? Like, this thing is nasty. It is not happy. And it lingered for a while. It was like after my friend, and it was definitely around. But it's just one of those things. I never knew. I thought I was going to go, investigate a castle. It's historical. It's beautiful. Go in there, and then someone went in there and did some sort of nasty, ritual in there, and invited some sort of old, ancient, dark spirit in there that was not happy about what we were doing there.
Yeah. George just got into the show and he said, "Where were you guys at?" He was at his friend's home that he had bought, which is a castle, and that's where he encountered this.
Called Auburn Castle in upstate New York. It's there was a group that was in there years ago, but no one's been in there in years. And then the owners asked me to go up there and check it out, and we ended up telling the whole story about the place. And it wasn't expecting the demonic activity that we ended up getting, and it ended up following us for quite some time afterwards.
George says, very interesting. I've been an investigator for 14 and a half years. Never heard that before. Very, very interesting. It's surprising how many places do actually have tons of activity, but they never come out to the public about it. And I mean, again, like this, it's a castle. It probably has any kind of, history, but it's somebody's personal home, so it's like, it's not like they want a whole bunch of investigators or people in the paranormal, coming to their home. And the same thing, I walk into places all the time, just regular places. I don't know why people in this field think it's got to be some like old abandoned building or some old rickety house. Like there are spirits all over the place, everywhere, and I'll go in and like I'll ask, I'll say, "Oh, do you guys ever have any activity in here?" And people, it's like their eyes get huge because, like, how do you know that? That's not something that we talk about. So unless you live in certain areas where there's just like a whole lot of paranormal activity, that area is just known for it. Like out in Nevada, they've got Virginia City, Nevada, and that's where the Washoe Club is, and all the different very well known haunted locations in this little tiny town. You expect things, like that, and there's like little, pockets where you've got towns with tons of, activity. But again, if you're very connected, you can go into places. I go into restaurants, pharmacies. I've gone into all kinds of locations, and yeah, completely got activity, and nobody talks about it.
Yeah, and another thing to mention too is just like these places, you think that you might just be dealing with the historical energies that are associated with that. I say to people all the time. I mean, you go to creepy places, abandoned places, or cemeteries. You have people wanting to do creepy things at creepy places, so they're going there because of the lore, the possibility of there being some sort of supernatural, paranormal experience that they could attain while being there. But then they also bring occult activity and do things, Ouija boards, rituals, and do things that actually adds to the energy that may have been there from the first place and invites something in. And obviously, in that case with the castle is a perfect example of that, because that was just an abandoned house. Obviously, they took that as some creepy place to do some sort of, you know,
Right.
opening an invitation to invite something evil in. And it had permission to be there. And then obviously we had to deal with this thing acting out because it was losing its permission for being on the property.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, what do you think about all the people now, wanting to do the Ouija boards, wanting to do rituals, all these things again? Because I'm just seeing like a lot of the new people are just like winging it. Like, I mean, again, I asked a lot of new investigators, like, okay, so when they tell me they do these rituals and everything, and again, they're learning online and just different things. What do you what's your thoughts on, all the people using all these methods to try to summon things instead of going in and investigate or communicating with, things?
Well, obviously I have my own interpretation of the Ouija board. I was oppressed by an evil spirit after I was
Yeah,
coerced to
that's
board
right.
years ago, and I would never mess with one ever again. And obviously I would never advise anyone to do that. Now I know people I'm friendly with that mess around with Ouija boards, and they say
Yeah,
nothing
me too.
happened to them, and it's just the wrong place, wrong time. But I also have been on cases where, I'll just give you an example, where a family was having some really dark things happen in their house, and investigating there, and I had a vision of a woman down in the basement waving her hands in a white dress and saying, they took my child. And then something came through the box and said Ouija. So when talk about what we uncovered to the parents, their faces kind of turned white, and they said that's really strange because they didn't do anything in the paranormal, but 25, 30 years ago, they did. They played with the Ouija board in high school, and after that, they were on some lover's lane at the edge of a cliff somewhere and making out. And some lady in a white dress came in the front, the side of the car, waving her hand, saying they took my baby and disappeared. Now, there's a good example is that it seems like that spirit has been with them ever since they opened up that door, lingering. But the worst part is that their 10 or 12-year-old boy was seeing a hooded red eye thing come to him in his bedroom and asking him and trying to make him cut himself. So that's why I tell you, people all the time is like, hey, you could play with the Ouija board tonight. You could play the Ouija board tomorrow and nothing happens, or next week or next month. But like, there's no conception of time in the spirit realm. So when that invitation opens, it's going to open on their time, not yours. They're going to sit dormantly until you have no clue it has anything to do with the paranormal, or at least you're going to have the best chance not to notice it. Because if 10 years from now, you're not going to be thinking about what you did, that long time ago. You're going to be thinking, I'm crazy, I'm depressed, I'm angry. And you may actually act out on some of those emotions because they're going to do some sort of amplification to your emotions subconsciously to try to egg you on, get energy from you. And if it's a demonic spirit, then they're going to want to make an example out of you, where ultimately you take your life or hurt someone else that you care about. And that's the most dangerous element of what we're dealing with.
Yeah, I think that again is like when we're talking about, people who aren't like a true believer of the paranormal. What changes everything is a personal experience. I feel the exact same way about the Ouija board. Now, again, I have plenty of friends that get very, well, used to get very upset at me for my stance on Ouija boards because they're like, we use them all the time. We know how to use them correctly. They're just a tool. And I agree, they are just a tool. But over the last 13 years or so that I've been, or actually almost 15 years, I've been doing the show, I have, not only do we have our own personal experience and stories, but I have interviewed so many people that, and some of them that said I never had a problem until they had a problem. But again, once you do have one and it makes you like a believer, like, oh shit, probably shouldn't have done that, it's too late.
Right.
Now you've got something really bad. Mine used to make me want to take my life when I was cutting myself because being a very strong empath, I found very at teenage years at cutting, I could release the energy that was all pent up.
Yep.
But when I got my attachment from a Ouija board, when I would be cutting, it would be trying to convince me to cut a little deeper and and convince me that all of this pain I was experiencing, or I felt I was experiencing, all this trauma, that it would all be over.
Hmm.
And so again, it's like once you learn it, you're never going to go back. Like I would never, I'm not interested in using a Ouija board. I have plenty of friends who do, and you know what? Do what you do, and if you ever end up in attachment, you'll know who to come talk to me. But until
Yeah.
then, everybody has to seem to learn the hard way.
I don't
So
I don't judge. If you want to use your free will to
that's
go and
right,
do that, that's on you. I did the same thing years ago and I paid for it dearly. So that's
right,
why I will never do that. Now, I know that there's an argument about some people. So what's the difference between the spirit box and the Ouija board? Now I'll give you my opinion on that. Is that
yeah,
we're just holding a device and the spirits are projecting their energy in and out of this thing to speak through it. But when you actually put your hands on an inanimate object and ask the spirit to move with you, it's inadvertently
going through you,
channel through you. And it's the same thing
right,
with dowsing rods. And I remember seeing cases of people getting possessed just from dowsing rods. Now some people say, oh, it only, it's supposed to search for water, but that in the old days that was their intent. Their intent was to
right,
search for water. If your intent is to communicate with
right,
spirit and that spirit's moving with you, again, I think that's where the real thin line of allowing it to channel through you is where the danger element comes in. And 95% of demonic hauntings from all the books that I initially read all came from Ouija boards. They didn't come from spirit boxes. I mean, hauntings can start. I mean, if you open up
right,
that door and constantly communicate in your home or do whatever you do, like constantly, you're going to get activity. You're going to attract, because then all these spirits want to have a voice, and if they're
right.
human spirits or even more deviant in nature, they all want energy for whatever the reason is, whatever type of energy they represent. It all comes with risk. Everything we do in the paranormal, opening up that door, yes, EVPs, doing everything that we do normally is risque.
Right.
But, there's every precaution necessary that we obviously take to avoid those circumstances. But I still have things happen. If I have a crack in my aura, or if I'm going to be dealing with something hard, I know that those dark bastards are going to be sitting there like cheerleaders saying, "Oh, we're going to make this
Yes.
more suffering for you because you did this to us." I mean, I know that I have evil spirits after me for the rest of my life. I believed
Right.
I've done some things in the name of good and God and light, and that's a cross that I'm going to have to carry for the rest of my life. But so be it. I know it's meant to do that, but it's very important for me to know how these things can actually attack us and be aware and be objective about emotions when they actually happen to us. So if you're being super sad or super depressed or super aggressive and it doesn't make sense, then it's best that you actually take a step back and be objective about those emotions, because there may be a third person perspective influence there. So
Absolutely.
I've seen it happen to me so many times. They've tried to oppress me multiple times, like in just situations. Is something you have to deal with. But I just, not, especially being sensitive like ourselves, we're more open
Right.
than the average person. So it's even more so, more prevalent, more, of an important thing to be aware and protected and know
Right.
what's happening if they're trying to, come into your aura and influence you.
Yeah, George says they build on your anger. The spirits build on your anger, and then it gets worse from there. And absolutely. Now, Stanley's asking, do you use any kind of protection when you're going on these kinds of investigations?
Yes, I always wear my Blessed St. Michael pendant. Actually, Ralph, my mentor in demonology, Ralph Sarchi, He is a relic of the true cross Jesus was crucified on. Anything it touches is considered a third class relic. This never comes off my neck. Obviously, I go everywhere with, I have a blessed relic as well. I have, holy water, my faith most importantly, because if I don't believe in any of this stuff, it's going to be
Right.
nothing.
Correct. Correct.
So, I say protection prayers, after, before I leave a location. But again, still things happen, but
Yeah.
you try to lower down the
Do what
chance.
you can. Yeah, you do what you can to lower the chances. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Alfred is in chat and he is asking, well, let's see, we've got about 9 minutes left. He said, what is the most undeniable evidence you've gotten to date? One that even the most skeptic can't deny.
Alfred. Again, I mean, skeptics will never deny. They're defense lawyers for rationalities. That's why I would say I would prefer for them to actually witness something where they don't have an explanation for it. I could show any video they could, and they would just come up with a
Find
theory
something.
that it was something normal. You see what I'm saying? They're so closed-minded, a lot of these
Yes.
people. I mean, I've seen some of these skeptics, that are lingering around the paranormal these days. Like, oh God, it's just these people. It's just like, why can't we just work together and be open-minded and respect each other and our opinions and our theories? But instead, it's like, you're stupid, you're dumb, what you believe in is fake, and I'm here to tell you that you're just like a child believing in a tooth fairy. That's
Right.
the nonsense you get with, unfortunately, a lot of these skeptics. But again, it's about witnessing it firsthand. But because of their attitude, it probably puts off any chance of really having a true experience like that, because they're already going in there trying to literally dismantle it, because in their mind it's not going to happen anyway. So they're just looking for reasons and ways to explain it off.
Yeah, absolutely. George says the ghost or spirits, as we call them, when they touch you and they mark you, not sure if a good way or a bad way. Have you ever been scratched or pushed, attacked?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. All of the above, right?
Yeah, dude, I've been scratched. I mean, I remember having a vision of a man while laying in bed, and he literally swung his fist at my face, and I felt an electrical jolt hit my side of my cheek like I got punched, but it was electrical in nature. I've been pulled by my ankle out of my bed, not fully, but it was like about a foot or two. Yeah, I mean, I've been oppressed. I mean, that whole story with the girl that we did a documentary on, and I was in my
Right.
book. The girl was possessed, who was pregnant. I mean, that's one of the most harrowing stories I've ever even heard of, still to this day, what I experienced
And
with that girl.
I can remember
Yeah.
when, I mean, you were calling me during that, and it was like, it was the most bizarre case from the beginning all the way to the end. It was just, I can remember that. Like, yeah, that was really
There's thousands of
something
miles
else.
away from me down south, and
Right.
I remember I didn't even know what to do. I was just learning about demonology. I was just starting to dip my feet in kind of a little bit here and there. But I mean, I'm praying over I have recordings of this girl like speaking English backwards, talking like a man to me, saying, "Sean, she's mine." And I remember praying over the phone to her, and she's like moaning and groaning like something straight out of a horror movie. I'm telling you. And right as I was praying for her, I felt burning, and it just looked like a cat had its way all over my arm. It's 13 slashes that appeared on my arm. It was there for like 2-3 days, and a very defining moment for me as well. When that thing said she's mine, I had a crucifix just like this, and she's on the phone with me, cannot see me, normal phone call, and as soon as I put the cross up to the phone, hissed at me. I mean, the chills that I had that night when that happened, I was just like, the things that were happening with that was just unbelievable. And considering how far away I was from her and what was the connection and the activity that was going on, it was something straight out of a movie. But yes, I have enough ghost stories for like 10 lifetimes.
I know. It's so funny because every time I'm telling people things, I'm like, you should write a book, and I'm like, man, I could probably write like a whole encyclopedia Britannica, volumes with all the stories I've had. But I mean, it just comes with the job. I mean, this is what it is. I think the worst thing I have been oppressed. I've had a spirit jump me and possess me. That was the scariest thing I ever experienced. Um, and I've been levitated and thrown across a room in front of a whole bunch of people attending an event. I would say those are like the top three. But yeah, I think if you've been in the field for a long time, I think everybody has a story of being scratched or pushed or tripped or, something happened. It definitely can get intense. It's not like, again, like you see on TV or on social media, where it's like every week, they're coming up on the worst of the worst cases. Um, but, if you get out there, there's definitely, it's a very big variance of how the cases go out there.
It's a combination of like fear tactics by physical attacks
Yes.
and psychological attacks. It's not like they're gonna like, I'm not, when people say when I personally don't like to sit here because I've been on so many cases where people will sit there and like, oh my God, the demon's making me sick and I have this ailment and that ailment. I don't think that's healthy. I try to put that off because you're
Yes.
giving acknowledgement to a possibility and giving credit to a potential evil spirit. That's something that may have not been responsible, where the fact that you could actually give energy to that entity by giving it
Right.
power. So, and I
Right.
try to avoid things like that too, because people are so easy to say, "Oh, it did this to me," because I don't want to give it credit if it didn't do that to me. And I would just say, you know what? If I have whatever I have, then that God meant me to have that, and I offer it up, and I have to deal with it, cope with it, and endure it the best way that I possibly can. And I know that God, wanted me to go through something that I know that I can overcome. That's the way I would approach it, because those other ways, just like, oh, this thing has got so much power. We're giving it power potentially, and it wants us to be in that fearful state where we would give it credit for everything, and that's a slippery slope right there.
Right. Georgia says actually they can make you sick, believe it or not. And yeah, George, yeah, we know that they actually can.
Yeah,
What he's saying is that you don't want to acknowledge that and give it any energy that it wasn't getting prior, because any validity, even fear of it, all of that makes it stronger. So, you want to be careful of what you're.
yeah, I believe they definitely could probably make you sick. I just like, when you get sick, do you know if it's even making you sick or not? Because you sit there like, oh my God, I'm blaming it on it. I just think that's a
Right.
slippery slope.
And
There's
you get
vulnerable.
a lot of people nowadays, again, they see all this stuff on social media and television, and so immediately when something happens, their brain goes immediately that they've got demons. I mean, again, I've had so many cases over the years that people swore they had, demonic activity, and I'm like, okay, well, what is your activity? And it's crazy stuff, nothing that we could even show. So there is a bigger audience now of people that are calling because they want to be on TV. They don't have any activity. They make it all up. They just come in and tell you a story. And I've known people who got caught up in this, and the teams have gone out there. They've done full investigations. They've got nothing. And in an investigator's mind, we all know, like, you may go out there and investigate, and the family will say all these things are happening, and then get out there to investigate, and nothing happens. That does happen. But again, so it's like, they'll go out there a few times, and then each time the family, as soon as they leave, they're like, oh, this is happening again. Nothing is ever captured. It's just all word of mouth of what they're saying is happening. Oh, now it's attacking my children, it's doing all this. So again, a lot of people have been found out that they're just doing it just to be able to get attention. So, and kind of to test the investigators. I interviewed somebody recently who said that they made up a whole story just to see if the paranormal team would feed off of it and go in and tell them, yes, and that's exactly what happened. This team came in and they're like, yeah, you're right. You got demons here. We're gonna have to come back and we're gonna have to do all this extra stuff. And it, then they called them out. But yeah, it was just a big prank. And yeah, this team went out and they had their equipment. And I'm thinking that the all the lights and stuff were being triggered because they all seemed to be having apps going on their phones. So I don't know, it was kind of crazy. So I guess you just kind of have to check everything out and see how it goes. All right. So what do you have? We only have a couple minutes left. What do you have coming up, and where can people find you if they want to follow you?
Yeah, just if you see my handle here at Sean D. Austin, my website, Sean D. Austin, you can get signed copies of my books, a couple of DVDs about my Amityville experiences, and Malefist, like the poster behind me, actually. I mail them out anywhere in the U.S. Otherwise, you get my books off Amazon. It's actually still trending again, I guess, because it's fall season. 28 Days Haunted still streaming on
Yep.
Netflix. That was just trending again today. And then we have a series that we filmed for ScareNetwork.tv. I've done multiple documentaries on there, and in October, there's a little bit of a delay, but in October, it's been a whole transformation of the platform. It's going to be completely free, just like Tubi with ads. So
Oh,
it'll be
okay.
very easy and accessible for people to watch our old content. And Darkness in Suburbia is a very interesting story. I think it's going to be 7 episodes. It's looking like. I also have Shane Pittman from Holzer Files and 28 Days Haunted I did with him as well on there. It's a Jersey town, newly built neighborhood in 2020. I was asked to help out with a residential home, realizing that multiple people in the neighborhood are having paranormal activity, and finding out the whole neighborhood was built atop farmland where they were sending internment campies from the Japanese during World War II. And all sorts of different history, and many people were having paranormal activity. So we were bouncing around to multiple houses and trying to uncover what was happening in the neighborhood. It was pretty fascinating. That
Wow.
should be coming out, yeah, in October.
Okay. All right. Well, you know what? It's been great having you on. It's great seeing, where you're at all these years later. And I'm so glad that I had, even just the tiniest part in any of it. So, thank you always for coming on the show and just being friends with me for all these years.
Yeah, absolutely. Likewise. Thank you so much, Christina.
Absolutely. Now I still need to get you out here because I need you to come out here to investigate out here because you're always doing the West Coast thing, and I mean the East Coast thing, and I'm always doing the West Coast thing. So I think you need to come out here so I can show you a great place out here on the West Coast, and then I'm gonna come out there and visit you, and you can show me something cool because you got great places out there on the East Coast as well. So
Yeah,
all right, well that'll be a plan. So again, thank you so much, and I will talk to you soon.
sounds good.
All right. All right, everybody. So thank you so much for joining us. Make sure that if you tuned in late or you are catching the rewind, make sure to share this out so that we can get the views. I am shortly going to be changing over and I'm going to be streaming it only on YouTube. And because I have a big following on Facebook, but I need to kind of get it over to YouTube. And then I will share the link on Facebook to the YouTube show. So just make sure to share the show, let people know about it, and I will see you next week. Good night, everyone. Have a great day. Oh, by the way, this coming Friday, I am going through the haunted house in Rancho Cordova, California. I will be doing it live, I believe, and I will be showing some clips of it on the show on Sunday. So make sure to join me, take a look, keep an eye on my page, and I will share the links. Good night, everybody.